Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jackson and welcome to Melanated Mentor MD. I hope you all are medicated and moisturized and ready to get into today's video. Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about things that I learned that I didn't realize or things that I wish I would have known earlier in my residency transition. So the first thing I learned is that as soon as you can, after you decide to leave your residency, you want to apply for your license and your DEA. Now, licenses are per state. And so some states only require one intern year before you can apply for your full medical license. There are a few states I've heard that require you to finish your residency. However, in my state, it was just one intern year. This process can take a very, very long time. So do it as early as you can. And the reason why you want to apply for your license and your DEA is because you may want to do some side gigs in between your residencies. All right, so this is major key. The biggest thing that I learned about was funding. And this will essentially help you navigate which residencies to apply to, which specialties to apply to, etc. Most residencies in the US are funded by Medicare, Medicaid, which is federal government funding. How that works is when you match into a specialty, you are allotted that many years of funding. The thing is, you are only allotted funding for the specialty in which you originally matched. So what that means is if you originally match in neurosurgery, you're allotted 7 years of funding. Same for family medicine, where you're allotted 3 years of funding. So this comes into play when you want to switch residencies. Now, where it gets tricky is if you want to go into a specialty that requires more years than the amount of funding you have left. For example, say you go into general surgery and you go 1-2 years and then you decide to go to family medicine. Well, you still have 3 years left, so that's not as much of a problem. However, it gets really tricky if you go above that. So if you go 3rd, 4th year and you want to go into something like family medicine or OB, which is 3 and 4 years respectively, you only have 2 to 3 years left of funding. If you transition to a 4-year residency, then essentially the program would have to eat that cost. That can deter a lot of program directors from accepting you into their program. Now, here is the caveat that people really don't tell you is that not every residency is funded by Medicare, Medicaid. So there are residencies that are funded by their county. There are residencies that are essentially funded by the state. And so you have to dig deep to find those residencies. I'll touch on that point a little bit later in this series or in my channel. I don't want to get too much into the specifics right now. All right, so this is not necessarily pertinent to your transition between residencies, but more so your medical journey in general. When I was in medical school, I wanted to apply to my previous specialty. However, that specialty required some sort of research. Now, I am not a research girly by any means, and I wanted to find a field that wasn't saturated with research. I got a plug to try psychiatric research because at that time, it wasn't necessarily a field that had bounds and bounds of publications or research, at least to my knowledge. I was able to find a research mentor who ended up helping me write a paper that I was first author on. Apart from that, I attended a conference that was more so geared towards dialysis patients. However, I gave a presentation about how being on dialysis and mental illness can intertwine, which people were surprisingly interested in. Long story short, I never thought that those parts of my resume would play a part in my life ever again. So I'm not sure if you're religious, but when I tell you that God / the universe / whatever higher power you believe in is setting you up for something that you would not even imagine, that is real, y'all, because I never thought I would need that ever again in my life. And I was so blessed to be able to have that to push me into psychiatry. Also, one of my mentors in medical school is a internal med psychiatry double boarded physician. When I was going through my journey and I decided to pursue psychiatry, I reached out to her. Besides her, I was put in contact with all different types of people. And it was just a very humbling and life-changing experience. So all that to say is that wherever you are in your medical journey, what you do matters. You may not know why it matters. You may not realize it matters until years later, but every day, give the best that you are able to give for that day. So I hope you found this video helpful. Small little announcement, I decided to be brave and turn on my comments. So I am so excited to hear what you guys have to say. I hope that you find it a safe space for you to discuss your journey, your life, ask questions, whatever your heart desires. With that being said, keep it relevant and keep it cute. Thanks so much for spending your time with me. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. And like I like to end all of my videos, may you choose peace over perfection.